The story begins with a woman named Ashley, who was driving somewhere in her car. Although she lived in the city, the forest wasn't too far from her. At the moment, Ashley was on her way to pick up her husband, whom she was meeting after a year. But instead of a smile, her face showed anger. The reason was that her husband had committed a murder years ago, and because of that crime, he was sentenced to prison, serving a full year. Now that he was finally being released, Ashley was going to pick him up, but it didn't feel like a happy occasion. Soon, Ashley arrived at the facility to meet her husband, Max. Max looked gloomy as he got into the car, and the two drove off together. They both knew that even though they were meeting after such a long time, the tension between them would keep them silent for a while. While traveling, Ashley stopped at a gas station to fill up the car. As she pumped gas, Max went inside the nearby shop to pick up some supplies. Inside, a police officer was questioning the shopkeeper, showing him a missing person's photo and asking if he had seen the man. The shopkeeper said no, but added that the disappearances were probably caused by the strange creatures said to live in the nearby forest, mythical beings buried underground for years who might now be free. According to local belief, these creatures had existed in the forest for generations, and one day they would rise again to hunt humans. The officer didn't take the story seriously and continued his investigation. Meanwhile, Max finished shopping and returned to Ashley's car. Before leaving, the officer told the shopkeeper to contact him if he saw the man from the photo and then pinned the missing poster on a wall outside the shop. But as the camera panned, it revealed that the wall was already covered with dozens of similar missing posters. It wasn't the first disappearance, people had been vanishing one after another, and it all seemed to trace back to those mythical creatures. Well, the truth was about to reveal itself soon. Max returned with the supplies, but near Ashley's car, a group of hunters was standing around. They were the kind of men who roamed the forest to hunt wild animals, and now they were staring at Ashley with filthy, predatory eyes. When Max walked up and saw them looking at his wife like that, he tried to confront them. But the men seemed to know him already. They started mocking him, calling him a criminal who had just gotten out of prison. Max and Ashley ignored their taunts and got back into the car, driving away toward their destination. On the road, Max cracked open several cans of beer and started drinking non-stop. Ashley hated it. After all, he had just finished serving time in prison, and she thought he should stay away from alcohol. But Max didn't listen. The argument quickly escalated. Ashley had always been against his drinking, especially since it was during a drunken rage that Max had beaten a man nearly to death, a crime that landed him behind bars. As they argued, neither of them noticed what was ahead. Suddenly, a man appeared on the road, and their car slammed into him. The stranger was thrown violently to the ground. They screeched to a stop and rushed out of the car, panic setting in. The man was in terrible shape, his body was broken in several places, and his injuries were gruesome enough that Ashley couldn't even look properly. Max froze in fear, realizing that after just getting out of prison, he might now be facing another case. Ashley wanted to call the police immediately, but Max stopped her, arguing that the incident would only turn against them since he had been drinking and driving. The two started arguing again, but Ashley, unwilling to hide the truth, ignored him and called the police anyway. Max looked defeated. He knew this could send him back to prison. Just then, he noticed movement in the bushes nearby. Something large was shifting behind the trees. Max squinted, trying to get a better look, but before he could move closer, something, or someone, started hurling large rocks at them. Max ducked behind the car with Ashley for cover, thinking it was just some kids messing around. But as soon as he peeked over the car to check, a heavy rock struck him hard on the head. After that attack, Max completely lost control and tumbled down a steep slope. At the bottom was a river, and he plunged straight into it. Seeing this, Ashley ran down in panic to help him. She could see Max floating unconscious in the freezing water, injured from the fall. Even though she didn't know how to swim, she didn't hesitate, she jumped in to save him. Ashley managed to grab hold of Max, but the current was so strong that it began pulling them both downstream. The water was icy cold, and they were struggling to stay conscious. Somehow, Ashley managed to drag Max to the shore. When she checked, he wasn't breathing, so she immediately started performing CPR. After several tense moments, Max finally gasped for air and came back to life. They were safe for now, but the cold was taking over. The early signs of hypothermia were setting in. If they didn't warm up soon, things would get worse. Meanwhile, back at the crash site where they had hit the man, everything was eerily quiet. Then, a huge foot stepped into view. It wasn't human, nor any known animal. The creature was massive, far beyond imagination. The monstrous being slowly approached Ashley's car, grabbed it, and violently shoved it into the river, completely destroying it. The man they had hit earlier, who was still alive moments ago, was now dead. The creature grabbed his leg and dragged him away into the forest, his fate unknown. Whatever was happening in those woods was exactly what the townspeople had feared for years. Ancient, mythical creatures were coming to life. Max and Ashley, meanwhile, managed to move a bit further away from the river. Their clothes were soaked, their bodies trembling from the cold. Knowing they needed warmth fast, Ashley took Max's lighter and managed to start a fire. They removed their wet clothes and hung them nearby to dry. For the first time in years, the two sat together in silence, scared, shivering, but relieved to still have each other. The scene then shifted to the police officer driving home. Suddenly, a distressed woman ran into the road, pleading for help. She told the officer her husband had gone missing and begged to know if there had been any news. It turned out her husband was one of the many people who had mysteriously disappeared near the forest, cases the police were still desperately investigating. The police still had no solid evidence explaining where all those missing people had vanished. Yet, the officer tried to comfort the worried woman, assuring her that the department was doing everything possible and that she shouldn't panic. He then left and returned to the station. Meanwhile, Ashley and Max were still stranded in that unknown, desolate place, but they had made a decision. No matter what happened, they would stay together. Max even promised Ashley that he would give up all his bad habits for good. When the officer reached the station, he went straight to his superior and asked if he believed in the existence of those so-called mythical creatures the townspeople talked about. The senior officer didn't believe in such stories but agreed that the strange events couldn't simply be ignored. He insisted they continue the investigation to uncover the truth. Just then, a female officer came in and reported that they'd received a distress call from a woman who had been in an accident deep inside the forest. Ashley's call. Hearing that, the officer immediately took a team and drove straight to the reported location. When they arrived, they found tire tracks leading toward the river. Following the trail, they spotted a submerged car in the water. Rescue teams worked all day to retrieve it, finally pulling it out by evening. Inside, they found photographs of Ashley and Max. The officer handed the photos to his team, ordering them to gather every detail about the couple. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ashley and Max spent the freezing night by their campfire, exhausted and unsure of how to get out of the forest. When Max went to grab his clothes in the morning, he realized Ashley's were missing, so he gave her his own to keep her warm. Together, they began walking, hoping to find a way out. They couldn't afford to stay in one spot, too many strange things had already happened. As they entered deeper into the dense forest, something eerie started to unfold. Someone, or something, was watching them. They didn't notice it, but the presence was clear. A massive creature lurked nearby, its body oddly humanoid yet monstrous. The creature had a bizarre ability. It could camouflage itself, blending perfectly into its surroundings like a chameleon. It observed Ashley and Max closely, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed through the woods. Following the sound, Ashley and Max discovered it came from a group of hunters, the same men they'd encountered earlier at the gas station, the ones who had harassed Ashley before. Max and Ashley hid behind a tree, quietly watching the hunters. They decided that maybe the group could help them. Max told Ashley to stay hidden while he went out alone to ask for help. He stepped out, barely dressed, and approached the group, pleading for assistance to get out of the forest. He told them he just needed to make one phone call to contact the police and share their location. But seeing his condition, the hunters burst out laughing. They mocked him mercilessly, making fun of the way he looked and sounded desperate. Thankfully, none of them realized that Ashley was hiding behind the tree, otherwise, things could have gotten much worse for her. Among the hunters, there was one who seemed to be their leader. He told Max that there was no cell service in the forest, so a phone call wouldn't work here. However, he did have a radio phone that could connect to emergency frequencies. Max immediately asked to use it, but the leader refused to hand it over. Even though they knew the way out of the forest, none of them were willing to help. It was clear they were enjoying his suffering. Meanwhile, Ashley, still hidden, suddenly felt something terrifying behind her, the same monstrous mythical creature. It slowly approached her but didn't attack. Instead, it plucked a strand of her hair, almost as if it was marking her, and disappeared back into the shadows. When Ashley sensed something was wrong, she turned around, froze in terror, and ran straight toward Max. Seeing her, the hunters began laughing again, their eyes filled with lust and mockery. But the leader quickly ordered them to stop. He told the group that he would help the couple escape the forest and even offered them some of his spare clothes to keep warm. Reluctantly, Max and Ashley accepted the help and followed the group as they began moving deeper into the woods, searching for a way out. Meanwhile, at the police station, the officer's assistant brought in a new forensic report. The analysis revealed that the couple's car hadn't just rolled into the river, it had been forcefully pushed from behind. The fingerprints found on the vehicle didn't match any human record. The officer was baffled. What kind of being could possibly have the strength to shove a car into the river like that? He also learned that Max had a criminal history, but there was no trace of where he or his wife had gone. The assistant began to suspect that perhaps the mythical creatures the townspeople talked about were real, that they were responsible for the disappearances in the forest. But the officer dismissed the theory, insisting they focus on finding the missing people instead of chasing superstitions. Back in the forest, Ashley and Max continued walking with the hunters group. The leader kept making crude comments about Ashley, which made Max furious. But surrounded by armed men, he couldn't risk fighting back. If he tried, they would overpower him easily. So, with silent anger, Max and Ashley continued moving forward, determined to find a way out, and never cross paths with this group again. 2 members of the group's hunting party were shown walking off with guns into the woods, probably trying to hunt down some animals. One of them stepped aside to relieve himself, while the other stood alert, scanning the surroundings with his gun in hand. Suddenly, he noticed a strange shape ahead of him. It didn't look like any tree. In reality, it was the same mythical creature that had perfectly camouflaged itself among the trees. As soon as the hunter realized something was off, a sharp arrow struck straight through his neck before he could even react. It was so fast and precise that he didn't have a chance to move. He was dead instantly. The first member was gone. Hearing his companion's faint cry, the second member rushed toward the sound and saw his partner dying before his eyes. He froze in fear as the creature emerged from the shadows, and before he could defend himself, the creature killed him too. Its aim was terrifyingly accurate. Both hunters were dead, and soon their third teammate arrived, searching for them. But their bodies were gone. The creature had already taken them away. After looking around for a while and finding nothing, the third man began hearing strange noises nearby. Panic set in, and he quickly pulled out his gun, trembling. Overwhelmed with fear, he stumbled and fell, injuring himself. He screamed for help, but the next moment, the creature appeared right in front of him. With one swift swing of its axe-like weapon, the mythical creature brutally finished him off. It seemed this creature wouldn't stop until it had killed every last one of them. The rest of the group's lives were now in serious danger. Now imagine if we ever found ourselves deep in the forest with a deadly creature like that. How could we survive? The key would be understanding how big the creature is. Usually, the larger an animal, the more weaknesses it has. As many stories have shown, even giant creatures can be defeated easily, but this one's different. It's wild and can track humans by their scent. To hide from it, the best thing you can do is cover your body with mud. That way, your scent will be masked, and no animal or creature can detect you. Whatever happens, never face a huge creature head-on. Try climbing a tree or hiding among dense plants. Large creatures struggle to look down or move easily in tight spaces. And if you still find yourself face-to-face with it, never run in a straight line. Big creatures can't turn fast due to their size. Run in a zigzag pattern, and it'll have a hard time chasing you. If you're with a group, focus your attacks on its legs. That's its most vulnerable spot. Aim for the creature's legs as much as possible. If you can injure them, that massive beast will fall. These techniques might help someone survive, but for Ashley and Max, who were still moving with the group, things were getting tense. They started hearing strange noises from the woods. Some of the hunters continued to harass them, and finally, Max snapped. He yelled at everyone in frustration. It seemed like the entire group was ready to turn on him and kill him. But suddenly, out of nowhere, another arrow flew through the air and struck one of the hunters. The man dropped dead instantly, and panic spread through the camp. The leader and the others looked around wildly, trying to see who, or what, was attacking them. Max and Ashley, terrified, hid in a corner. Then one of the hunters spotted something moving. It was the creature. He immediately raised his gun and started firing. The problem was, the mythical creature was a master at hiding. It blended perfectly into the dark forest. No one else could even see what he was shooting at. The man fired several rounds, but not a single bullet hit the target. In his panic, he accidentally shot one of his own teammates. During all the chaos, Max was also hit and collapsed unconscious. Ashley rushed to his side, trying to help him while the group scattered in terror. The hunter who was firing ran out of bullets, and at that very moment, the creature appeared in front of him and killed him instantly before moving on to the others. For the first time, everyone saw the creature's terrifying form. It was something out of a nightmare. The monster then turned toward Ashley, moving fast to attack her, but she managed to run and hide in a corner. There, another survivor was hiding too. Both of them stayed silent, hoping not to be noticed, but the creature already knew their location. It grabbed the other man and killed him on the spot. Ashley used that moment to run for her life, but the creature saw her escape. It launched an arrow that struck her leg, sending her crashing to the ground. She was badly hurt and could barely move. The creature reached her, ready to kill, but for some reason, it didn't. Instead, it turned toward Max, picked him up, and began dragging him away. No one knew why it spared them. It had killed everyone else without hesitation. Just then, a gunshot echoed. The group's leader had fired at the creature, hitting it in the shoulder. The beast roared in pain and charged at him, lifting him by the throat. The leader struggled, gasping for air, but no one could help him. After knocking him unconscious, the creature took both Max and Ashley with it into the forest. No one knew what it planned to do with them. The entire forest had become a graveyard. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a police officer arrived at a house after getting a report about a sick woman. The woman had cancer, but instead of medical help, the people there were preparing for a strange ritual. The officer, confused but curious, agreed to stay and watch. Back in the forest, Max was shown lying unconscious on the ground when a strange woman appeared before him. Her body was deformed, her nails long and sharp. She was clearly a witch. The witch dragged Max into her hut deep in the forest. The place was filled with disturbing things: animal corpses, jars of herbs, and ritual tools. Her face was twisted and terrifying, but surprisingly, she seemed to be trying to heal Max. She removed the bullets from his body and used a mixture of herbs to treat his wounds. It wasn't clear who she was or why she was helping him, but there was definitely some mysterious connection between her and that deadly mythical creature. The dark truth was about to be revealed. Ashley was shown trapped inside the creature's hidden lair. When she regained consciousness, she was terrified to find herself surrounded by horror. The hunter group's leader lay unconscious beside her, and the creature had piled up the dead bodies of the other hunters nearby. There were even piles of human skeletons, proof that this monster had killed countless people over the years. Soon, the creature's growling echoed through the cave. It was getting closer. It approached first and killed the leader instantly before turning toward Ashley. In its hands were sharp tools, and instead of killing her outright, it began to assault her while she screamed helplessly. No one was there to save her. Meanwhile, the police officer was seen participating in a strange ritual with the same group that had reported the sick woman. The woman, dying of cancer, was laid in the center of the room as people dressed in eerie costumes began performing the ritual. They handed everyone a strange liquid to drink. The officer hesitated but eventually gave in and drank it. The ritual began. People started chanting and circling around, and soon the officer began hallucinating. He saw bizarre visions, including a glimpse of the creature's face on one of the costumed figures. His mind was spinning, and his body grew weak. Then he saw something unthinkable. One of the ritualists reached into the sick woman's stomach and pulled out the cancer as if removing it by hand. Shockingly, the woman didn't scream or show any pain. Whatever was happening there defied all logic and science. A while later, Max regained consciousness and saw the police officer nearby. His first question was about Ashley. Where had she gone? The officer finally revealed everything. He admitted that he never believed in the existence of the creatures, but now he was certain they were real. Apparently, the strange witch had told him the truth. The creature was not a monster from another world but a mutated descendant of ancient humans who had once lived as tribes thousands of years ago. Unlike normal humans, their evolution had stopped midway, leaving them trapped between man and beast. Living in isolation, they had mutated into monstrous forms. The officer warned Max that if more of these ancient tribes still existed, humanity itself could be at risk. He told Max that the creature had kidnapped Ashley, and the only way to save her was to kill it while it was weak. The bullet wound in its shoulder was their only advantage. Determined, Max agreed to help. The officer armed them with sharp weapons but reminded him that the creature had an extraordinary sense of smell. It could locate humans just by scent. They would have to be cautious. As they stepped out of the witch's hut, the old woman began chanting strange words, her voice echoing in the night. It was unclear whether it was a warning or a signal. Max and the officer pressed on into the forest. Deep inside the cave, Ashley was still with the demonic creature, who forced her to eat something strange. She fought back fiercely, attacking it several times, but its thick, tough skin made her efforts useless. Then, the creature suddenly paused. It heard a sound in the distance, the same strange signal made by the old woman's device. It realized someone was coming to challenge it. Grabbing its weapons, the ancient creature stormed out of the cave. Seizing the opportunity, Ashley freed herself, put on some clothes, and grabbed a gun that had been left behind. Determined, she followed the creature into the forest. Everything was leading to one final confrontation, an intense, deadly battle that was about to begin. The police officer told Max that they needed to split up to cover more ground and find the creature faster. So, they went their separate ways. Not long after, the officer began hearing strange noises around him. He knew instantly that the creature was nearby. It made sense, since the mythical beast could smell their blood and sense their movements. Within moments, the creature started circling him, preparing to attack. The officer fired multiple rounds from his gun, hitting the monster several times and wounding it badly. Enraged by pain, the creature retaliated and brutally killed the officer. Now it was just Ashley and Max left. Hearing gunshots, Max ran toward the sound and found the officer's lifeless body. Determined, he tracked the creature through the blood splattered across the bushes and opened fire as soon as he spotted it. A short distance away, Ashley appeared with her own gun. Together, they unleashed a storm of bullets, hitting the creature repeatedly. The forest echoed with its monstrous roars. Realizing the creature was getting angrier, and even more dangerous, they decided to run. Max insisted that Ashley leave and find help, telling her there was a road not far from there. He promised to finish the creature himself. Reluctantly, Ashley agreed and ran off to get help. Moments later, the creature emerged again, face to face with Max. He fired every bullet he had, but it wasn't enough to bring the beast down. Both fell into the muddy ground, locked in a vicious hand-to-hand fight. Sometimes the creature overpowered him, but Max fought back with sharp wooden stakes, stabbing it again and again. At one point, it seemed like Max was done for, but in a final burst of strength, he wounded the creature severely, knocking it down. Even after it lost consciousness, Max didn't stop. He kept striking its head repeatedly, making sure it could never come back to life. Meanwhile, Ashley finally reached the road and managed to call for help. Exhausted, Max sat down, breathing heavily in relief. But suddenly, an arrow pierced through his body. Shocked, he looked up to see not one, but several other mythical creatures emerging from the darkness. There were many of them now, far more than before. It was clear they weren't just hunting humans, they were preparing to wipe out the entire human race. What happens next remains unknown, and that's where our story ends.